all right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Savvy to the TheRumLab channel. I'm super excited to be here with everybody. Um, my name is Federico Hernandez, and I represent the TheRumLab.com, part of the Savvy as well, Savvy.co. And we're super excited to be here because we're going to talk about Ron Santa Teresa. We're talking about Ron Santa Teresa, 226 years of Ron Santa Teresa. So, that being said, I think we should directly jump into today's topic. For those that are joining us for the first time, uh, this is really quickly to your right, to the right, you'll see a chat box. Will you be able to interact with us and ask all the questions that you have? I want to make sure that we're all connected. Yes, we are live, going live. And then if you have any questions during the live stream, so just make sure to click on where it says right below to ask where it says ask questions, um, and be part of this presentation. Today we have uh, two guests, two amazing guests. Number one, Edwin Hincapie. He's the North American brand director. Edwin, hi.
Hello, happy to be here.
Edwin, that was not a lot of excitement.
Thank you for having us, Federico. Excited to be here, talk some rum, and talk about a brand that's very near and dear to my heart.
There you go. All right, let's go. And then number two, we're super blessed as well to have Nestor Ortega, the master distiller from Ron Santa Teresa. Nestor, how are you today?
Hola Federico, hola Edwin. Bueno, muy contento de estar acá hoy para conversar acerca de esos 226 años de historia.
Except, igual, maestro. Igual, maestro. And Edwin just quickly said that he's super excited to be here to talk about 226 years of Ron Santa Teresa. So this is going to be amazing. So during the presentation, we have some live videos. Some of my team was recently in Hacienda Santa Teresa, just like going through this amazing experience. And then we all hear about the Hacienda Santa Teresa, but most of us don't even have not even been to Venezuela. We don't even know what it is. It's just like a urban legend. So through these videos, we'll be able to enjoy as well. And then we have Edwin and Nestor, who's going to tell us a little bit of how the whole story, how this company's been here, because this is like, think about it, 226 years. We haven't, like, these are generations that we didn't even exist, and then they can tell us a little bit about us. So first of all, let's start with a little bit of the history before we start with the videos. Nestor, ¿cómo empezó Ron Santa Teresa? ¿Cuál es la historia de Ron Santa Teresa de su comienzo? So my question was to Nestor, like, Nestor, how did Ron Santa Teresa started? What is the story? And Nestor, I'm going to remind you again, I have ADD, so we got to go baby steps, slowly with me.
Sí, todo empezó hace 226 años con la fundación de la Hacienda Santa Teresa. Y a lo largo de esos 226 años, han habido 5 generaciones de la familia Former, los mayores accionistas de Santa Teresa, hasta llegar al día de hoy, y que ha vivido muchas situaciones, muchas historias, desde la independencia, cómo se desarrolló la hacienda, cómo se fue montando las destilerías, cómo esos campos de caña siempre produciendo caña y produciendo azúcar y ron, todo hasta llegar al día de hoy.
Edwin, are you going to translate?
Sure, I'll translate it. So everything started 226 years ago. To put it into perspective, the rum is actually older than the country of Venezuela. So this is still a family-owned rum brand. It's now the 5th generation Volmer family. Throughout that whole time, the Volmer family has been the majority family managing the rum and owning the rum fifth generations up to Alberto Volmer now that runs the brand and manages the brand. But it's a very, very exciting time. It's still family owned, 5 generations that are still heavily involved in the brand. It's still a family product and a family project, but very excited to bring a little piece of Venezuela. As you said, Federico, not many people have gone, not many people know about it, or maybe there's some preconceived notions about Venezuela. So happy to bring a piece of a beautiful country and a beautiful product and beautiful people to everybody.
Thank you. So you mentioned, Nestor, you mentioned, Nestor, that the Vollmer family are the principal accionista principales, but are there other families as well?
No, ese es el mayoritario, ese es el mayoritario.
They're the major. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So 226 years ago, how did it all started?
La hacienda arranca con la fundación, en aquel momento era el conde Tobar, y se llama Teresa en homenaje a su hija, y era una hacienda productora de caña, y al lado de la caña de azúcar siempre estaban los trapiches y las pequeñas destilerías que con el correr del tiempo se convirtieron ya en lo que es hoy la Hacienda Santa Teresa, que produce rones para todo el mundo, y esa es la marca que más se vende en Venezuela, y que produce Santa Teresa 1796, nuestro ron super premium, a partir del año 1976.
So it all started, as Nestor said, 226 years ago. Santa Teresa is named after the daughter of the first generation, and it was a small hacienda, a small, piece of land that grew sugarcane. And within the area, there was other haciendas, other parts that were distilling cane, liquors, doing other things, growing other crops. And as time went by, really Santa Teresa all started to absorb and grow in together. And they started continuing this process of creating rum from everything that they had around them on the hacienda.
Sí, ya para finales de los años 800, la hacienda empieza un proceso de crecimiento acelerado, industrialización, y de crecer y traer nuevas técnicas para la siembra de la caña de azúcar, para el procesamiento de la misma y producción de azúcar y melaza, y para la destilación. Mejorar la destilación de la hacienda. Y ya a principios de los 900 las bodegas ya estaban empezando a crecer y son las bodegas una de las bodegas más antiguas de Latinoamérica.
So as the 1800s came along, the group started finding new ways to grow sugarcane and producing molasses, and continue to just find new ways of improving the way that the production process was done. And in the 1900s, the bodegas, which are still there and some of the oldest, we started improving on those, and then really focusing on perfecting the rum.
Excellent. All right, I think we should go through a quick video and or start glancing through the videos. I'm going to mute it so that way if we want to talk about during the presentation anything that has to go, but there's so much histories, and I want to share that with the world. So here we go.
Okay.
Okay, estamos viendo un valle aquí. ¿Qué es este valle? What is this valley that we're seeing right now?
Estos son los valles de Aragua, ubicados a 1 hora de Caracas, la capital de Venezuela. Y esta es la entrada a la Hacienda Santa Teresa, y podemos apreciar al lado de esta entrada hay una antigua estación de tren que es nuestro actual centro turístico, donde le damos la bienvenida a todo el que quiera visitar la Hacienda Santa Teresa.
Y estos trenes, okay, sorry, Edwin, you want to translate really?
What we're watching now, what we saw is the Aragua Valley, where the Santa Teresa Hacienda is located. It's about an hour away from the capital of Caracas. You definitely feel like you're in another part of the world as you just see the natural beauty. You saw the entrance into the Hacienda Santa Teresa, where once you come in, there's an old train station that actually up to 1960s used to work, I believe 1963, which is now our visitors center. And it's where we welcome everyone into the Hacienda Santa Teresa. It's where the experience begins when you do any tours or visits.
El perro que vimos ahí, ese famoso, ese perro parece ahí.
Él es uno de los cuidadores de la hacienda. Esos trenes que preguntas son trenes que recorrieron esas vías hasta el año 93, como acabo de mencionar.
Yeah, those trains.
The train
ran
that
through the hacienda.
Edwin, explain that, please.
No, those trains ran through the hacienda and the valley until 1963. It was just a system of railroad that connected kind of all the land together. And again, we've incorporated that and to keep part of that history of the valley, the location, and the hacienda. So it's now part of the experience where anybody comes into Santa Teresa, that's where the experience begins.
Excellent. And then, so in this video, we're going to see a little bit of and everybody takes a picture here right next to this palm tree. Todo el mundo se quiere siempre tomar una foto alrededor de las palmas, ¿verdad? ¿Qué representan las palmas para la hacienda?
Mira, la palma de la caña, estas palmas son llamadas en Venezuela chaguaramos, o palma real también en otras áreas. Y para tener ese tamaño tienen que tener más de 25 años sembradas. Y representan, siempre están asociadas a los campos de caña y representa como la fuerza de la naturaleza y la tradición de la empresa, porque en Santa Teresa esas chaguaramos siempre se renuevan. Tú siempre ves esa fila de chaguaramos. Hay un personal permanentemente dedicado a su cuidado a lo largo de todos los años.
Those palm trees are the chaguaramas, and they're very, very important to the hacienda in terms of our symbolism and our images. For them to reach those heights, they have to have been in existence for over 25 years. They actually mark on the hacienda where two roads cross, and what we call the Cruz Aragua. It actually becomes a symbol too, as pilots are flying over Venezuela. They use it as a symbol to know how close they are to Caracas. So it's become a big symbol of the hacienda. It's very important to us. There's actually personnel that is strictly devoted to the maintenance of the charaguas, but it's one of our symbols of strength, unity, growth, and just being strong.
De hecho, la cruz de Aragua, la cruz de los chaguaramos, está reflejada en nuestras botellas. La parte inferior de las botellas es una cruz.
Yeah. And that Cruz Aragua that the charaguamas face, where the two paths come together, is actually represented on the bottom of every bottle. So when you lift a bottle of Santa Teresa 1796, you'll see that there's the Cruz Aragua there, and it's our way of just a little piece of home, a little piece of our hearts in every bottle.
Do either of you have a bottle that we can see that? Or access? It doesn't have to be right now, but it'll be great to see it as we go through this presentation.
One more.
Pero Néstor, tú te has tomado esa botella.
No, está aquí.
A ver si se ve. Tiene que subir. La cruz, claro. Part of the bottle is a cross.
Yep,
Yes,
the bottom of the bottle is the Cruz de Aragua, which the chaguaramas form.
Excellent.
Esa cruz es un símbolo donde se pose una botella de Santa Teresa en cualquier lugar del mundo, está la Hacienda Santa Teresa.
Yeah. The reason of having it on the bottom of the bottle is a symbol of wherever that bottle is, wherever you find that bottle, whoever's holding that bottle, it's a piece of Santa Teresa, the hacienda, but also a piece of just back home and all the history that the brand has.
Excellent. All right. And then here we're seeing, like, this is a really cool view because you're seeing a train station. This is like, and this is like going back on time. And I imagine, is this the way people got to Hacienda Santa Teresa to work, right? From the closest village, or how was it? Because it's like you basically you stop the time right here, and we're gonna see that even as we keep on going, seeing more of this station.
Sí, la hacienda la estación se reconstruyó a finales de los años 80, principios de los 90, conservando todos los elementos originales. Y es lo que puedes apreciar en ese video. Y
Yeah,
fue operativa hasta el año 93, hasta 1963, perdón.
So we restored the train station, and yes, it was used for transportation, for going back and forth. It was kind of, that was the town center, and we built it back in the 80s and 90s, but we kept every detail, every original way that things were, to really capture that moment in time and continue that tradition of, you know, the history and the heritage, and just the tradition of what Santa Teresa as a brand and a company and its people. It's almost our ode to those that came before us. But it is like, having just gone, it is like going back in time.
Yeah, and it's called El Consejo. That's the name of the station, El Consejo.
Y el consejo y la población que está al lado de la hacienda es el consejo.
Okay, and then so what we're seeing right now, El Consejo means the guidance, no? Or the suggestion.
Esa name, es nombre, solamente el consejo.
Sí, pero si lo vamos a traducir, significa el consejo es la sugerencia, the suggestion, ¿verdad? Como...
Es que cuando llegan le damos un consejo que se tome un vasito de ron.
1796.
Okay, entonces, for some reason, the team directly from El Consejo, they went to this area that we see some like aging barrels, but is this part of El Consejo? This is somewhere else. ¿Esto es dentro de esta área o es separado?
O sea, eso todo pertenece a la hacienda. Esa es la Casa Tovar, el museo de la hacienda. Y esto es una bodega donde hacemos nuestras sesiones de testing para los invitados, nuestras sesiones de catado. Y donde tenemos, ya estamos entrando en la bodega de solera de Santa Teresa 1796. Una bodega que montamos en el año 92, en 1992.
That room that you saw and everything that you see is in Hacienda Santa Teresa. So it's not like you come in and part of the process takes place there and then it goes somewhere else. Everything from sugar to final product happens at the Hacienda Santa Teresa. So the house you see there is actually the museum of the family and the company. Those are our testing barrels where we try different liquids and see what's going on. That's the 1796 vat, which was built in the 1990s. But yes, like we were saying, it's not that they get there and there's a visitor centers and then they go off to different places. Everything is within the hacienda. It's a single estate. So from sugarcane growth to liquid and bottle, it's all happening in the same place.
Excellent. So I'm going to go back to now a little bit about going back to the term of history, right? Going back to at the very beginning, you said el apellido es Balomen.
Folber.
First of all, ¿de dónde ellos, where do they migrate from?
Ellos son europeos, vinieron de Alemania, y el primer Folmer se casó con la hija del general José Félix Rivas, y bueno, se dedicaron a hacer crecer esta hacienda a lo largo de todo el siglo XVIII y XX, y a lo largo de esas 5 generaciones cada generación ha ido aportando a ese quehacer de la hacienda, de la producción de azúcar y de la producción de ron.
So the Vollmer family migrated from Europe. They're from German ancestry, German background. Then they married in Venezuela, the General Rivas' daughter, and they really focused on growing the land, growing the sugarcane, really building out what became now Santa Teresa. But every member of every generation that came after has added their own touch or their own part to the history of the family and to the hacienda. The family really focuses on rum, sugarcane, and sugar production in terms of where they are with the hacienda.
Understood. How has because you mentioned a little bit a while ago, mencionaste recientemente que los tanques que estamos viendo de solera son de los 1960, ¿verdad?
Los toneles donde hacemos las soleras son de la década del 60, sí. Estos toneles. Este es donde ocurre el tercer añejamiento de Santa Teresa 1796 en la solera de toneles.
And these vats are from the 60s. It's where it's the third step of our Triple H process. It is in the Solera warehouse, but it's the vats that are from the 1960s.
But so that being said, or that question going through the same question, when did the Santa Teresa started with the solera process or the technique of using solera?
Ok, volviendo un poquito ya a la historia de Santa Teresa 1796, fue un ron que se diseñó para el lanzamiento, celebrar el bicentenario de la hacienda en 1796, los 200 años, Edwin.
So now we're starting to get into the story of Santa Teresa 1796. The Solera system was something that was built and the process started getting implemented as a celebration to the bicentennial of the company, which obviously was 1796. So this was in 1996. And this comes around now to the creation of Santa Teresa 1796, which is our flagship.
Y fue un reto que nos planteó el doctor Alberto Follmer, la cuarta generación, el padre de Alberto Cristóbal Follmer, y cómo hacer un ron nuevo que fuera diferente, que fuera con todos los elementos de calidad y que reflejara la tradición e historia de Santa Teresa. Y para ello, excuse me.
No, so I have the same ADD, so I have to keep it short. But no, it was a challenge that was put together by the fourth generation, actually Alberto's father, that we're celebrating 200 years. Let's create something different, something that's never been seen before. How do we take rum production one step forward or one step more to really celebrate this special occasion?
Y en ese momento nos planteamos, o sea, varios años antes de esa celebración, ¿qué hay que hacer? Entonces, primero elaboramos un alcohol nuevo en Santa Teresa, que fue recuperar el método de destilación artesanal o still, y luego preparamos ya ese blend, y ya teníamos ese blend preparado, y surgió otro reto, ¿qué le hacemos adicional? Y fue cuando plantearon que necesitábamos llevar el ron al método de solera.
Eso es súper interesante. Edwin, yo creo que deberías de traducir esto un momentito, porque this is key information that Nestor is sharing right now.
Yeah.
Edwin, si quieres traducir esto.
So what Nestor was saying is, once they received the challenge, they said, what else can we do? So we introduced a different alcohol into the brand, which was going back to that very traditional, very historic process of pot still. And we introduced pot still alcohol into our blend. We worked on it. We thought it was great. We were there. And then once we took it, it was like, well, what more can we do? How much further can we take this? Which was the conversations around Solera system started happening.
En ese momento, cuando tú tienes ya tu blend, ya crees que tienes tu ron, en Santa Teresa siempre se quiere ir por más y nos piden, queremos que el ron bate a la solera. Ay, que es una solera en el año 90. En el 90, o sea, está bien que es una solera, no es así como ahora que te metes en internet y mira, aquí tienes cómo se hace una solera y todo. Ya, bueno, ¿cómo es la solera? Pues le pintaron en un papelito, una solera, es como se hace el Jerez en España y tal. Y bueno, así nos fuimos a construir la solera, conseguimos un libro, estudiamos un poco y construimos nuestro método y desarrollamos nuestro método de solera en barricas de roble de 250 litros, las barricas Oscar, para un segundo añejamiento, y luego añadimos un tercer añejamiento en la solera de toneles, que era un método tradicional en Santa Teresa de reposar los rones antes de envasarlos.
So we had added that blend, that third blend, and we thought we were done. And we're very, very happy with where we were. But in Santa Teresa, we always ask, how can we take it a step further? What more can we do? So the challenge was put forth to incorporate the Solera system. And it's not like nowadays where you can go onto Google or online and search up what's a Solera system. So we all looked at each other like, what the heck is a Solera system? We were handed a napkin, which was drawn by hand, and it was, here, go build this. So we found some information, we looked into books, and we ended up building our Solera system, replicating the process that is done in Spain with the sherries. And then that became part of our triple aging. So we not only age after all the blends into the Solera, we then take it into the vat for a last stage as well to add that triple aging effect to it.
Esa que vemos ahí es la solera de barriles.
These are the Solera barrels in line.
Okay, Nestor, I have a question for you. So, and this is something that actually we all forget, but it's important. So the column still system is something that came in the 1900s, right? If I'm not mistaken, to different parts of the world. But the majority of distillers always had pastilles at the very beginning. It was later transitioned to column still because it was industrial, especially for those rum companies that were producing a massive amount of rum. They can also use it not only to do rum, they can use it to do other type of spirits, to have a continuous column still. And it's great to see distilleries going back to reviving the original, right? And there's no good or bad. I think column still has their beauty, and pastel has this beauty. So do you remember? And here's the question: when did Santa Teresa transition from pastel to column still? And now you already mentioned in the 1960s.
1988, en 1988 comenzamos las pruebas. En el año 1905 Santa Teresa comenzó su producción en columnas. En
1905 Santa Teresa transitioned from pastel to column still.
A columns. Y a lo largo de todo el siglo XX se fueron desarrollando las columnas hasta llegar al equipo que ustedes vieron en la visita y que vamos a ver en los videos. Y cuando se plantea este nuevo ron, bueno, tenemos dos alcoholes, uno de ligero y uno pesado de destilación continua ambos. Y se planteó entonces cómo ir a otro alcohol que aportara más sabores. Y el pot-still tiene esa ventaja. Es un alcohol muy cargado, y que trabajamos mucho en su método de fermentación y en destilación, y construimos todo ese, no recuperamos, reconstruimos un nuevo método de destilación y de fermentación y destilación para obtener ese adicional que le da la grandeza de sabores que tiene 1796.
Exacto.
La madurez se lo da el ligero y pesado envejecido por separado, pero la riqueza aromática se le da este.
So that was a lot. Try to bring it all together, but yeah. So in 1905, we transitioned to the column stills, and again, as this challenge came forward of how do we create this special rum for the bicentennial, we said, okay, we have our light and heavy rums, but what can we add to just give it that extra explosion of flavor and create a really unique taste profile? And that's when we went back to pot still. And it wasn't that we went back, we actually reconstructed the method and went back to incorporating that. And so it's the inclusion of that pot still in 1796 that really gives it that unique flavor, and the flavor stands out. The light and the heavy get aged together as well in the blend, but it's the pot still that really brings all the flavors out.
Bueno, here in the video, we're having a glance of the distillery. I imagine the tanks that we're seeing are the molasses tank. Is that true, Nestor, or are just the molasses tank?
De molasses, excuse me.
Sí, son los
Estos son
tanques
los
de molasses.
Tenemos de alcohol al frente y en la parte posterior de melaza.
So we both have alcohol in the front and then molasses in the back. But
Yes.
the sugar, what about the sugar refinery? How did so you are a single state, but I
Yes,
understand.
but the sugar refiner was produced la producción de azúcar es en la hacienda vecina.
Yeah, the sugar production is in the hacienda right next to it.
And it's always been like that?
No, no está en el video, creo.
No, pero
No,
siempre fue así.
siempre ha sido así el proceso.
No. Teníamos la producción de azúcar en la hacienda hasta el año 56.
So until 1956, the hacienda used to refine their own sugar. They closed that down, and then but
Una
next
hacienda,
door.
en la hacienda vecina de la familia, forma parte del complejo Santa Teresa.
It's a family business too. Sigue
Yep.
siendo familia.
Sí, es familiar, sigue siendo familiar.
And it's still within the Santa Teresa land and hacienda.
Understood. So here I stopped here on purpose because we're seeing here a very nice antique pot still, and then and I don't know if this is the pot still that you have in your house now, Nestor.
Ese postil funcionó hasta finales de los 800.
So Nestor is saying that this pot still was used until the end of the 1800s.
Yes.
At Hacienda Santa Teresa. All right, so let's just keep on seeing part of the video.
I tried to take it home with me when I was there, but they bolted it down. Yeah.
So here, actually, in the back, they're doing this is super interesting, and I'm gonna explain it really on a high level. They're giving our team an explanation of how the molasses arrives and how it goes through fermentation, distillation, and how basically the rum or the whole byproduct goes through all the stages until being a neutral rum. In the back, we're seeing some of the fermentation tanks. We're seeing some of the columns still as well. But Nestor here can guide us through. No, Nestor, tú no puedes dejar saber qué es lo que estamos viendo aquí.
Aquí estamos viendo primero a nuestro personal muy dedicado de la estación explicando el proceso y con unas muestras para degustar esas diferentes etapas en que pasa la melaza, de que melaza se convierte en mosto fermentando y luego ya en alcoholes. En la parte posterior, a mano derecha, está el área de fermentación, donde están las cubas de fermentación. En el centro están las columnas de destilación, que son 4 columnas, donde el alcohol entra, el mosto, perdón, entra en la columna de la derecha, esa era la izquierda, y los tanques de almacenamiento de alcohol diario, de la producción diaria.
Yeah. So this is our team at the hacienda walking through the process. So they're showing the molasses and it goes through the fermentation process and how we get into the alcohol. So if you see in the back, you see the vats where it's all the molasses is going through fermentation. And then next to it, you have the column stills of where the alcohol starts getting produced. And then you see the final column vats there where the alcohol will start getting produced further along. But it's our team starting the process. We started from first scratch of molasses all the way through.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So is it open? It's even though we're seeing the fermentation inside a roof, is it open fermentation or is it controlled fermentation inside those?
Las cubas de fermentación nuestras son recipientes cerrados y tenemos el proceso de fermentación continua en 5 etapas.
They're closed, and we have our process goes through 5 stages.
What are those 5 stages?
¿Cuáles son las 5 etapas? ¿Cuáles son las 5 etapas?
Nosotros no fermentamos en batch, donde tú colocas melaza, levadura y esperas un tiempo, sino que continuamente en esas 5 etapas estamos fermentando, inyectando melaza en la primera, segunda y tercera etapa, y al final, en la quinta, el mosto va pasando de etapa en etapa, y al final retiramos la levadura y la reinyectamos a la primera etapa. Y eso nos permite fermentar en 12 horas.
So we take the first batch, and it's 5 stages, and it goes through the process, continues to go through the process. And what we do is we continue to inject more of the molasses into every stage until we get to the last one where we pull it out and we pull the product out. But then we put it back through again to ferment again. That's what we're saying. It goes through 4 different kind of steps before it's finally done. And then that allows us to finish or go through the fermentation process in 12 hours. It's just a constant reintroduction of the molasses and then pulling it out at the last stop and putting it through again.
Excellent. ¿Cómo ha cambiado en estos últimos 226 años el proceso de hacer el ron en la destilería? How, the question is, in the last 226 years, how has the process of rum distillation has changed? We already went through, we talked about from pot still to column still, now to using a combination of both. But what other things that, because everything, we are all learning how to be more productive as well, right? So I'm just curious, things that we can know about, or if you want to share your formula, just go ahead and share it with me. It's okay.
I think we just lost connection. Sorry.
Esa es increíble, pero la manera de hacer ron primero cambió de postil exclusivo a columnas de destilación, y más recientemente en el año 80, 79-80, justo cuando yo empecé a trabajar, se empezó a usar el método de fermentación continua.
So it's changed, first moving from pot still to column distillation. That was something that changed obviously earlier on. And then now in the late 80s, 90s, when Nestor started joining the company, we moved into continuous fermentation, as well as what we were talking about prior.
Fuimos la primera destilería en Latinoamérica en usar fermentación continua de melaza.
We were the first distillery in Latin America to move into that continuous fermentation of molasses.
Y luego, cuando se plantea el reto de hacer 1796, recuperamos ese proceso de postil y adicionamos a la fermentación continua una fermentación secundaria, una fermentación batch, que permite enriquecer ese mosto que se destila por postil.
So for 1796, as we started going back to pot still in the process, we added another step in the fermentation, which was taking the product out and putting more into the batch process, which allowed us again to pull out more flavors and more impact into the rum.
Ahí tenemos el video. En el video tenemos las etapas de fermentación que lo llamamos cubas. La cuba 1, 2 y 3. Y luego están las 4 y 5, donde ocurre la transformación del azúcar en alcohol.
So there you have it. We have actually the whole process outlined on the wall. So when you're walking through the hacienda, you know what you're seeing and what you experience. You can really walk through the whole process. And those drawings there that say Cuba, it's not Cuban rum. We're in Venezuela. It's definitely Venezuelan rum. But that's the vats for the fermentation process as it goes through. And you see 3, and then there's 2 more on the back.
Y ahí podemos ver las columnas. De la primera columna se obtiene el aguardiente pesado para los rones pesados de destilación continua. Y en la cuarta el alcohol ligero para los rones ligeros, que se dejan envejecer hasta 35 años para dar ese aporte especial de maduro y añejo que tiene 1796.
Yeah, so in that first column, you see the first product, which is that aguardiente. That's kind of the base for all the rums. And then the last column, you see the light rum, which we age up to 35 years to really get mature and pull out all those flavors that make the rum unique.
This is actually super interesting. I've been reading a lot about like the word rum, when rum started being used, and I'm just learning that the name aguardiente was actually the primary name of rum. Before the name rum started being used, it was already called aguardiente. And in some countries like Puerto Rico, we used to have aguardiente, and it's little by little transition from aguardiente to rum. And the word we don't even consume aguardiente anymore. I'm actually very proud for some countries like Nicaragua, Guatemala, and other places, Colombia, that maintain the name aguardiente being used.
En Venezuela también.
En Venezuela se sigue consumiendo aguardiente.
Sí, está como nombre comercial también.
Es,
en la destilería lo llamamos al alcohol de la primera columna, un alcohol que sale a 75% de concentración.
Pero ese ron, disculpa, ese ron
va a ser ron. ¿Ah?
Se supone que no se llame ron, ¿verdad? Según las leyes.
No, ese va lo llamamos aguardiente internamente para diferenciarlo del alcohol, el alcohol ligero, pero este va a su proceso de añejamiento de 5 años en barricas de roble blanco americano.
Understood. Edwin, you want to translate that?
Okay, I gotta go back to where you guys start. So yeah, we in Venezuela we still use aguardiente as well, but it's the first liquid that comes out of that first column, right? So it's at about 75 proof. It hasn't been aged. It's kind of like, it's the equivalent of rum moonshine, let's say, hence the name aguardiente. But that will still go through the process of getting smoothed out and aged, and what we would use for a lot of our lighter runs. The aguardiente is the base of our future rum products.
Y como estás hablando, Federico, en Venezuela la ley exige que ron tiene que tener mínimo 2 años de añejamiento. O sea, todo lo que está en una botella de ron tiene que tener al menos 2 años de añejamiento. Y Santa Teresa 1796 es una mezcla, un blend de rones de 4 a 35 años.
Yeah. So in Venezuela, the law is for it to be called a rum, it needs to be aged at least 2 years. So anything that you see with the word rum on it, and if it's light, it's been aged at least 2 years. That's why we differentiate that product, that first step, as aguardiente. And Santa Teresa 1796 is a blend of from 4 years up to 35 years.
Through the Solera process.
Yeah.
Plus, adicional tiene el añejamiento en solera.
Yep. So after the blend with the 35 years, then additional step of aging through the Solera.
Y la solera la colocamos, el ron madre, ese blend inicial lo colocamos en el año 92. Y como la solera es un proceso, un método donde nunca se vacían los barriles ni los toneles, siempre en cada botella de Santa Teresa 1796 hay una pequeña porción de ese ron madre que se colocó inicialmente.
Yeah, so as you know, with the Solera system, you never empty out the barrel. So the mother rum blend that we put in 1992, as we go emptying out halfway before refilling. So the barrels are never completely empty. We only go halfway and then fill. So we say every bottle, every product has a little bit of that mother rum still in it. Another interesting thing is that with our Solera system, it's still done by hand. So each barrel is still emptied out by hand and filled by hand. So and again, an ode to that craftsmanship and really being hands-on in the process.
Es completamente artesanal, como acaba de reforzar ahorita Edwin. Y fue un proceso, fue todo un método que desarrollamos, enseñar al personal a cómo hacer fluir la solera. Y se mantiene hasta el día de hoy, y es la artesanía que está detrás de 1796. Acompaña cada etapa de la producción.
Yeah, so it's that artisanal method and just that respect for tradition, heritage, and the artisanal way of doing things that we like to incorporate across every step of the way and everything that we do. And again, it's something that the team Nestor had to go learn about Solera. After they pulled up Google and saw the outline, they were able to incorporate it, but it still sticks with the brand today of that artisanal method and everything that we do.
Understood. So we're seeing this drawing. Estamos viendo este diseño aquí. Había mencionado que el proceso de 1796 pasa por un proceso de pastel, pero aquí lo que estamos viendo es un diseño todo de columna.
El postil está en otra área de la hacienda. No sé si ustedes lo filmaron.
No, casi, no. Estoy tratando yo de ir otra vez a Venezuela a ver si me permiten a grabar eso.
Ok, tienes un pendiente de la hacienda, para visitar la hacienda.
Yeah, so my question here is like, where in the drawing are we seeing, where do we adapt the pastel? And he's like, no, it's a whole different system. And then it's a traditional way.
En el año 88 existía un postil que estaba en la hacienda para hacer unas pruebas que lo diseñaron en 1974 y yo lo tomé para empezar a trabajar este método, o sea, recuperar el postil, el proceso, entender cómo debemos trabajar y adicional al tener un proceso de fermentación continua que produce mostos para alcoholes ligeros, también fuimos en paralelo trabajando en qué sucedía si ese mosto le dejábamos tiempo que tuviera fermentaciones secundarias para que se enriqueciera de sabor.
And so in about the 80s, we saw a pot still that was there, and I started just thinking about incorporating and testing and trying new things. And then as we were working on like the lighter rums, we started thinking like what would happen if we added that to a secondary aging process and what would come out of it. And then thinking further down the line, like what could we do with this pot still and what we already have to create something new.
Understood. So not all Santa Teresa rum expressions then are necessarily going through the Solera process. Some of the traditional that we see, so you have the Cristalino, you have the gold, you have different local markets. Other ones that you see around the world. In the U.S., we're very lucky at least to have the 1796. Before we never had Santa Teresa, or it was rarely sun. We have to be thankful for Bacardi to creating a partnership with Santa Teresa to import that rum. And then the expression that they decided to bring in is a super premium, in my opinion, and at a accessible price too. But clarifying that, going back to my statement or my question, is that not every single rum in Santa Teresa uses the Solera process, ¿verdad? Entonces, Néstor,
la pregunta es,
si no todos los de Santa Teresa entonces usan el proceso de...
No. La solera nuestra fue desarrollada exclusivamente para Santa Teresa 1796, al igual que el alcohol postil. Los demás rones que fabricamos son mezclas de rones ligeros y pesados de destilación continua.
Yeah. So the Solera system was specifically designed, again, if we go back to the earlier story of the challenge, right? We're celebrating the bicentennial of the company. What can we do special? What can we do an extra step to really create something new? And so when we reintroduced pot still and kind of that artisanal method with the light and the heavy, the extra step and the challenge was to incorporate the Solera system, something that they saw, in Europe, and how would that play with rum? So it's very unique and specific to only 1796. And 1796 is also the only expression that has pot still in it. Every other expression of Santa Teresa, whether it's Linaje or Gran Reserva or underneath, is just a blend of light and heavy rums. But the pot still effect and the Solera aging system is only exclusive to Santa Teresa's 1796.
Understood. Let's talk about, so what tradition, qué tradición, ¿verdad? What tradition, or let me start with the first statement. When the Americas started, when the Europeans came to the Americas and they got established, civilized, we have different people, Spaniards, French, XYZ, they were all looking for that perfect brandy, that perfect whiskey that they can replicate on the Americas in their new country. And they were, especially the Spaniards, were looking for that. How can I create the perfect brandy? And then, what tradition do you know of, if you know of any, says like, we want to follow the steps that we've been doing it since the day we started. So la pregunta es, Néstor, si, o sea, nosotros, muchos países, ¿verdad? Todas las Américas se crearon con los europeos que se mudaron para acá y establecieron. Y luego todos estaban buscando el brandy perfecto, el coñac perfecto, el whisky perfecto y cómo podían hacer una réplica. Entonces, si hay algún tipo de explicación o como dijera, como tradición que se continúa utilizando, que a ti te han explicado, mira, esta es la manera que queremos hacer el ron para mantener siempre algo de alta calidad.
Mira, el ron es un hijo que tiene muchos padres, así como acabas de explicar con el tema de Europa. Y en el Caribe están identificadas 3 tradiciones, la francesa, la inglesa y la española. Venezuela entra dentro de la tradición española y para que un ron sea de buena calidad tiene que añejarse. Y luego, perdón.
No, so yeah, to your point, like you said, as the Europeans came in, they were all looking for that, but the rum is a product that we like to say has many dads, right? There's many fathers, many people claim rum. There's many versions of rum, right? There's the French, the English, and the Spain. Santa Teresa follows, the Spanish model. But to continue to, in Venezuela, but to continue to improve and evolve, you have to age and figure out new ways to add those flavors.
Entonces, la tradición española exige llamar ron a lo que sale de las barricas, o sea, a lo que se fermentó, destiló y se añejó como tal en barricas. Y luego, sumándole a esa tradición española de que el ron es todo lo que se añeja, recuperamos el postil y recuperamos y innovamos usando el método español de solera. Nuestro método es muy similar al de la producción de cherry brandy, de brandy de Jerez.
Yeah. So following that Spanish model of, rum is anything that's aged, we age the rum. We followed that to get, the base and continue to build on from what that product was after aging. And then we incorporated, again, the Spanish style of Solera and what was used for this brandy production. And we started to add that and then basically forming what would be now 1796.
Pero al final, Federico, es una tradición venezolana, es una tradición de Santa Teresa 1700, de Santa Teresa, el cómo se hace su Santa Teresa 1796.
Yep. And at the end, afterwards, the addition of pot still, the addition of the Solera method, while it's based in Spanish, it's a tradition and it's the artistry that comes from Venezuela and specifically Santa Teresa in terms of how we make this beautiful product.
Excellent. Something that there's one more video that I really want to quickly share. I know we're about to pass our time, but it caught my attention, and it's the Alcatraz. So here let me close the previous video that we were seeing, and then let me open this one. So not every company has to do this, but and I'm just curious why Ron Santa Teresa decided to give so much for the community. And just, y Néstor, no todas las compañías hacen esto. O sea, it's so much easier said than done. But there's, Santa Teresa has given back so much for the community for years. And I'd like to understand why. Like, what's the real story that you guys want to help people that were in jail?
Mira, esa historia viene un poquito de la tradición de la familia Fulmer, que se ha llevado a la Hacienda Santa Teresa, que son una familia con una vena social muy, muy grande. Y en el año 2003, justo en la hacienda, ocurre un robo y Alberto estaba empezando en la hacienda en ese momento a dirigir la fábrica, la fábrica a dirigir el ron. Y Alberto quería, bueno, hacer muchas cosas con el ron, pero en esto se sorprende de que hay un robo y le dicen que, él dice, bueno, hay que buscar a la gente, que le quitan a los vigilantes nuestros el arma y el chaleco antibalas. Edwin, please.
So,
El cuento es muy largo, no quiero...
no, lo podemos decir juntos. So, in the tradition of giving back in the community is something that's very close to the Volmers, right, throughout all the generations. It's a family that's very close to social causes and wanting to help and wanting to improve the situations around them. So you think back to 2003, Venezuela was a very dangerous place. You're looking at some of the stats, it was more dangerous than the Iraq War, which was going on at the time. The neighborhood where the hacienda was, there was a lot of gangs and a lot of gangs violence. So one night, a gang broke into the hacienda, beat up and robbed the security guards and stole their bulletproof vest and the guns. And when this got back to Alberto was just starting to manage the hacienda and the company at the time. So it comes a time for a decision, right? You know, what do we do? If we let this kind of just go, they'll continue to come back, you know, or do we find them? So taking the decision of like somebody needs to be responsible for what happened and held accountable, he asked the security team to, you know, hey, let's go find the people that robbed the hacienda so we can make a correction out of this.
Sí, Alberto plantea eso, pero lo planteó así de rompe. Cuando le plantea a estas tres personas que mira, o hacen lo que dicen, hacen lo que les vamos a decir y trabajan en la hacienda sin cobrar porque hicieron un mal por 3 meses, bueno, quedamos a la par. Las personas dicen, podemos discutirlo y hablar. Alberto dijo, sí, podemos hablar el lunes, pero ustedes ya saben cuál es la alternativa, o trabajan para redimirse o van a la cárcel. Y el lunes apareció toda la banda completa, 23 personas.
So
la primera vez.
Lester jumped the gun a bit, but so after this robbery, you know, the head of security goes out, finds the culprits, basically calls Alberto like, hey, we found the people that did it, you know, what do you want to do? Should we bring them in? Do you want to? He's like, no, hand them over to the police. Let the police handle it. So as the police is taking them away, the head of security notices that they're not going to the police station. And again, these were gang members, criminals, probably thought, you know, they're thought of less than in this society. So as the police is taking them away, he's taking them through the mountains, and, you know, the head of security from experience knows what's about to happen. So he calls Alberto and says like, hey, I don't feel comfortable about this. They're taking them to a secluded place, red light, green light. And if you guys understand what the green light is the police was going to kill them. So Alberto goes, no, red light, absolutely no green light. You know, I don't want anything on my hands. Bring them back here. So security brings them back to the hacienda. And as they're meeting with the team and with Alberto's like, well, somebody has to be held accountable for this. This can't continue to happen. I'm going to give you an alternative. You can come in to the hacienda and work your debt off, basically pay for what you did by work. We'll put you to work at the hacienda. After 3 months, you will consider your debt free. We're not paying you. We'll give you room and board and feed you, but we're not going to pay you. It's you're paying off your debt. Or the alternative is we hand you back over to the police. So they asked themselves, can we think about it? This was a Friday night. They say, you know, can we think about it? And of course, thinking Friday night over the weekend, they're like, they're going to just be gone and worried. And he goes, absolutely, go think about it. But if you're not here and you don't accept, you know what the alternative is going to be. So lo and behold, they show up Monday morning, and it's no longer just 3 of them. It's 23 of them. The entire gang showed up to kind of put themselves to work and reestablish themselves at the hacienda.
Ya hemos usado hasta los detalles estos fuertes del cuento. Ese fue el comienzo de Alcatraz. En el camino Alberto se ubicó psicólogos, sociólogos que ayudaran a estas personas a buscar el buen camino, a redimirse con la sociedad, y también su parte legal de todo lo que estaban involucrados. Pero al final de cuando ya estaban cerrando ese programa, los primeros programas, ellos le dicen a Alberto, vamos a reunirnos porque tenemos un problema. Ajá, nosotros vamos a salir a la calle, pero van a salir a la luz. O sea, ellos siempre viven en la oscuridad. Y nos van a ver la banda vecina y nos va a matar. Ellos son nuestros enemigos.
Yeah. So after the whole gang showed up to kind of be part of this program, Alberto and the team of Santa Teresa, they brought in trade experts to really give people experiencing and training in trade. They brought in psychologists, sociologists to also deal with mental health issues and really help grow and reestablish this group to be able to be reinserted into society as productive members of society. And it was working great. It worked really, really well until one problem, right? At some point, they had to go back. So the day before the program was to end, they called Alberto in for a meeting and it said, listen, we love everything you do and we're super grateful, but we now have to leave. We're coming out of the darkness back into the light. We've been in hiding here working this off. And the problem is there's another gang waiting for us, right? The gang that they were at war with. So once we go back out into society, they're going to kill us because they are our enemy gang.
Y Alberto, bueno, o sea, para continuar con su programa y como siempre en Santa Teresa de ir por más, se fue para el barrio donde estaba la otra banda, la buscó, le echó el cuento de lo que estaban haciendo y se los trajo al programa.
So Alberto kind of following the Santa Teresa way of, smiling in the face of adversity and taking challenges head on, said, let me think about it, right? And so he went out himself actually without the other gang knowing and went into this slum in Venezuela to find the other gang. So you imagine how that walks in, where a 6-foot, German-looking man walks into the hood of Venezuela. So obviously everybody's surprised to see him there, wants to know what's going on. He gets through to be able to have a meeting with the gang leader. He explains what's going on, what the program is about, and what was now the foundation of Project Alcatraz was starting to be formed, and invites them in to the Hacienda. They accept. This is all without the other gang actually at this point knowing what was going on as well.
Wow.
Y esa es una historia tan verídica que yo estaba el día que los tenían en ambientes separados y yo voy saliendo de la empresa y está Alberto ahí, yo voy para hablar con él y con el jefe de seguridad. Ajá, ¿y qué estás haciendo? No, ¿y qué? No, vamos a tener una reunioncita. Y yo veo que pasa un grupo de alcatraces y luego veo que viene entrando el otro grupo. Era la primera vez, después que habían pasado ya por el programa, que lo iban a poner juntos.
So both gangs went through the program, but they were kept separate, actually different ends of the Hacienda. So the Hacienda, just in size, could be kept in different ends without one another knowing they were there. So Nestor says, I still remember that day when we're walking through and I see a group of the first Alcatrazes and I saw Alberto standing there and it's like, what are we doing? He's like, no, we're just going to have a little meeting. And then I realized it's the other gang there. And that was the first time that either one of them was aware that the both were there and that they were going to meet face to face in person, since all of this crime and violence and, fights between each other. Both sides have had deaths. Both sides have had, violence against one another. So Nestor, obviously very excited to see what was going to happen, waited around as this was the first time the two gangs were going to join.
Y fue un día de reencuentro, fue perdonarse, y la herramienta que más ayudó a todo esto fue el rugby. Porque el rugby es un deporte de caballeros y que permite el jugar rudo físicamente, pero respetándose y respetando al contrario.
¿Y esa fue la primera vez que se jugó rugby en la Hacienda? Bueno,
se jugaba en Venezuela universitario nada más, pero fue cuando se empezó en la Hacienda a promoverlo dentro de la comunidad de los Alcatraces y luego para toda la comunidad vecina.
Yeah. So after the two gangs met, obviously like any high danger, very important meeting, they met over pasta. I think if we were in the States, it probably would have been over pizza, but they got together over pasta. It was a time of communication, talking, and forgiveness. And there was a challenge put there. Obviously, you could cut the tension with a knife in the room. Nobody would make eye contact with each other. They wouldn't talk to each other. And finally, the challenge was put out there of like, you guys are all leaders. And if you're this big, rough and tough, men, find it in your heart to forgive each other. So you can imagine the moment when the two gang leaders actually took the courage to go in, shake hands as gentlemen, and agree to move on. And it was just as if like the air was let out of the room. There was a sigh of relief, and just everybody can feel like a little bit more relaxed. This was also the point where, as part of the reintroduction and teaching values and sportsmanship, teamwork, and discipline, rugby came into the picture. Alberto was a rugby player. Rugby was played in the universities in Venezuela. I laugh because there's two ways about it. I always said teaching the sports values of rugby, and also not many Venezuelans knew how to play rugby. So both gangs actually start on the same foot. Neither one is better than the other, but they go being able to utilize rugby as a way to let out some of those emotions, but having to work together and having to work as a team.
Sí, los valores del rugby: espíritu deportivo, humildad, trabajo en equipo, respeto, por el contrario.
So the rugby values of teamwork, discipline, respect, humility, sportsmanship, it goes beyond the pitch.
And the name Alcatraz, why the name Alcatraz?
Viene por la famosa cárcel de Alcatraz, pero también es el símbolo de renacer.
So everybody thinks
de volar alto, perdón.
So everybody thinks it's after the famous jail, and since this is a program that works with the prisons and gang members, there is some truth to that, but it's also an Alcatraz is the symbol of rebirth and regeneration and freedom. So you'll see the logo, it's the bird that goes up, but sometimes connecting it to the church to the prison in San Francisco tells a better story.
Sí. A la fecha, más de 200 muchachos se han recuperado, más de 13 bandas, y el programa está completamente institucionalizado y ha sido objeto de casos de estudio de universidades, y también permeó dentro de toda la comunidad de Santa Teresa, en su personal y en la comunidad vecina del Consejo y otras poblaciones.
The program Alcatraz now counts over 200 graduates of the program, over more than 11 prisons, both male and female. So the program has extended into the female prisons as well. The program itself is not just program Alcatraz in terms of what goes on in the prisons, but there's also rugby training that more than 2,000 kids, all the way from about 8 years old through 20 years old, participate in. So there's the portion of going in and working with people that are in jail to work through reinsertion into society, but there's also the prevention part and utilizing rugby and its values to prevent people of having to actually even get to that part. The exciting thing is that it's now completely institutionalized. We work with Venezuela to go into all the prisons. It's very well respected, very well known. It's also expanding. We just opened up the first program, Alcatraz, in Spain. So the program is now growing to other markets. There's always questions from other countries about how they can work together to bring something like Project Alcatraz to life. Exciting for me, especially here in the US, is we're working on bringing Project Alcatraz to life also in the US through partners. So great to see from what started with, I recently met Jose, who was the gang member that broke into the prison. And he was talking and he said, best mistake he ever made, because look what came out of it, how many lives he's been able to save through Project Alcatraz.
Ha sido un trabajo largo y constante, y los resultados se ven en cómo transformar esas vidas, y forma parte del lema de Santa Teresa de transformar el entorno, que está también plasmado en los otros proyectos sociales que tienes ahí en estos videos.
It's been a long job, but it's very rewarding to see not only how you're affecting the lives, but also the perception and helping the country move into a better light, into a better future.
Excellent. That's beautiful. Once again, it's easier said than done, and not a lot of companies put many rum companies are running already on a thin line, almost in red numbers sometimes. And just to do that, go above and beyond to help the community, that's good karma. And that's why you've seen this company for sure going for so long, for over 226 years. There's a question that we always ask is, and it's about transparency, right? And the use of sugar in is sugar added to some of the rum expressions in Ron Santa Teresa? Uh, and if yes or no, which expressions should we expect that?
Ron Santa Teresa es un ron seco, pero tiene para balancear el sabor hasta 3 gramos por litro de azúcar, que se utiliza para balancear el sabor, no para adicionar. Es un ron que lo sientes suave, balanceado y seco también.
Yeah. Santa Teresa is a dry rum, but to get to those flavors and those things, there is sugar, but only 3 grams. So when you think about rum and other rums that are out there, which can hit 20 grams, 30 grams, 40 grams, right? Santa Teresa per bottle is only 3 grams of sugar. It's more the aging process. Again, we go back to the Solera and the triple aging that really adds that flavor and that smoothness. And Santa Teresa is just exceptionally smooth. It has that dry taste. So when it comes to sugar, it's very minimal.
All right,
es un tema de balance de sabores, de balance de eso.
It's just used to balance everything out.
Okay, I got a couple of questions, and then that way we can do a really quick recap, or close to today's. Well, really quickly, I paused the video here on and this gentleman. I'm gonna play it, and it's in Spanish. If you can understand it, good for you. If you can't understand it, I'll try to translate it, or I'll give a highlight.
Y bueno, así como Santa Teresa en 1796, yo también pasé por un largo proceso. Yo estuve en una cárcel 4 años y ahí estuve pagando un delito que no hice. De verdad fue un lugar para mí desesperanzado, ese lugar oscuro. Y un día, bueno, bajé a la cancha y vi unos compañeros que jugaban con un balón ovalado y yo vi cómo se empujaban y me divertí mucho viéndolo. Y un compañero me dice, bueno, pero si quieres jugamos, vamos a participar. De verdad me gustó y empecé a jugar con ellos. Y él me dice, no, esto es el proyecto Alcatraz, esto se llama rugby. Yo de verdad no sabía ni qué era rugby porque nunca lo había escuchado. Y yo le digo, oye, me parece bien, vale, vamos a jugar. Entonces, no sé, eso me hizo salir como del momento de estar preso. Ahí me sentía muy bien, relajado, y drenaba todas esas cosas y todos los pensamientos que tenía. Era mi momento como de divertirme.
So really quickly, what he said, mentioned in the video, this guy actually was in prison. He went to prison for something he did not do. Supposedly, I don't know. And then, but he shares that during prison, that was an awful experience. He saw these guys just playing rugby, or just a sports, basically with a oval ball. And one of the players approached him. It's like, hey, you should play with us. It's called rugby. He was fun with it. And actually, that was basically what helped him mentally to go through this process of surviving jail. And today he works at Ron Santa Teresa, which is it's just fulfilling. Okay.
Federico, sorry, just on that note, I think one of the important things to note about Project Alcatraz is it's not just the education and reinsertion, right? We're not taking these guys in and working with them and then sending out to society. But as you saw here, many of them actually go on to work at the Hacienda through the production process. Many have become global brand ambassadors that'll come into the countries and talk about their experience. They've learned the art of cocktail making. Some are actually training with our master distillers to learn how to make the rum. So Project Alcatraz, that became as part of a program for society to improve, actually lives through everything that we've done and that we do with the brand. So every bottle of Santa Teresa, there's probably been an Alcatraz that has touched some part of it throughout the process.
It's beautiful. Thank
Federico, para resumir, en cada botella hay un líquido excepcional, hay una historia, una tradición y hay un propósito.
So in every brand, in every bottle, there's a purpose, there's a beautiful story, there's somebody behind it that put their time and effort, but there's a deeper soft story, especially around our purpose in Project Alcatraz in every bottle.
Very well. Thank you. All right. Very quickly, as we went through the presentation today, before we go to a Q&A, if you want to support us, it'll be great. You can go to savvy.co, and we have a website called nullblueclean.com that we do licensing agreement with different rum companies that you can buy some of their swag, which is really cool. Or you can support us through Patreon, and you can have access to over 400 live stream videos like this that started in 2020, right through at the beginning of the pandemic, and they'll blow your mind away because they're so this like you want to deep dive in rum. This is a great way to do it. Our festivals that we're closing the year for 2023. We have still the LA and the San Francisco Rum Fest coming up, and then we're starting already to promote the Miami Rum Congress that's coming in February 9th and 10th, 2024. All right, enough said. Let's go to the Q&A. First question that we have is, when will Ron Santa Teresa be releasing a new expression? Would it be available in USA?
So that's exciting news on the way. We will have the first Santa Teresa innovation. It's still going to be based on 1796, but taking 1796 now as the base and creating a new expression around that with different techniques to create a beautiful new liquid. That will be on shelf in the US by November. So just in time for the holidays.
Excellent. Question number 2, that was from Dayton. Let me close this one. Dayton, Dave Russell, when will Bicentenario be available in the US, and what is the expected price?
It's a little pressure on me. Bicentenario will launch first, obviously, and I actually think that might have come from somebody on the Venezuela team. But Bicentenario will be first, obviously relaunched, I should say, not launched, relaunched. It's a reimagination of the original Bicentenario packaging. It's beautiful, especially the liquid. But in Venezuela this year, then in duty free through GTR as well. For the US, we will probably be about a year and a half to 2 years out. But you can pick it up at the airport while you're traveling at duty free.
I have a really quick video here from the team being able to see how it looks. And we just actually released an article in TheRumLab.com from that team. We have an amazing writer. And then here they're showing the bottle, and it's basically 3 casings in one casing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Ahí está nuestra maestra ronera Nancy Duarte presentando el producto. Es un ron que se lanzó en el año 1986, 10 años antes del bicentenario, para empezar a conmemorar ese bicentenario de la hacienda, y que se sacan muy pequeñas cantidades, y es una expresión de los rones más antiguos de la hacienda.
You see our master blender, Nancy Duarte, there presenting the product. It's something we're very, very proud of. The original Bicentenario was launched 1986, 10 years before, obviously, 1796. It's a very, very exquisite liquid made of the oldest barrels and the oldest product vintage in the Hacienda. And very small quantities will be released for it.
Y Nancy es nuestra primera mujer maestra ronera en Santa Teresa.
Yep, and Nancy that you see there is our first master blender, female master blender at Santa Teresa.
Excellent. Okay, and now let's go to Dayton. How many distilleries are experimenting with different barrel types, such as former port, cherries, others? Is Santa Teresa testing different barrels for future release?
Todo está en investigación y en desarrollo.
Everything is being tested. Everything is open. Everything is available for future product and line extension. So we're not leaving any barrel or any technique unturned.
Todo está en desarrollo, Federico.
All right, and then the last question is about fermentation. How long is the fermentation process usually?
Normalmente entre 12 a 14 horas, la continua, y en la fermentación especial para nuestro postil es más de 4 semanas.
Wow.
Usually,
Edwin, you want to say that?
I was waiting to see which one of us was.
Ese es un secreto muy especial.
I did not know that. That's actually super interesting information.
Yep. So, do you want to translate it, or?
Yeah. So Nestor was saying, I want to do that closing for sure. Yes. So Nestor was saying, so for the standard rum that they do is, or the continuous fermentation is from 12 to 14 hours. Mm-hmm. But for the rum that's going to be distilled at the pastille, the fermentation could be as long as 4 weeks, which is mind blowing, right? And it's just beautiful because I'm ready to go to try that 1796 again and deep dive with that. That being said, Néstor, hay que cerrar con esto. Tú tienes un vasito de ron Santa Teresa ahí, 1796.
Búscame un vasito para
y me gustaría
un momento. Un vaso, el que dice Santa Teresa y un hielito, bueno. Sí, vamos a buscar un vasito, ya lo traen.
Es que me gustaría que tú de tu opinión de eso. So from in your point of view, what profiles are we going to find in the 1796 when you're sipping on the rum? I would love to hear from the master distiller.
El pequeño mejor, ¿no? O no, eso, no importa si es el otro.
Aquí, I put Nestor in the spotlight.
Ese, Yolanda.
He's being good for the camera. You know, it's 4 o'clock. He usually starts around. Yeah,
no podíamos tenerlo preparado con ese.
9:30. I'm ready to go out there to conquer the world.
One moment, please.
He's trying to act responsible right now, and you know that he didn't have the rum readily available.
Okay. Para mí, el mejor trago de 1796 lo llamamos coconudo, que se toma 2 onzas de ron en un vaso de este tipo de vaso corto, con un hielo grande, y se le añade una conchita, se hace un twist con una piel de naranja, y se le añade un toque de agua gasificada, y el nombre cojonudo es del coraje y resiliencia de Santa Teresa para llegar a estos 226 años.
Edwin, I think you can explain that.
And Nestor was saying for him the perfect serve is cojonudo, which is, as you see him making it, 2 ounces of Santa Teresa 1796. You see over the big rock, then an ounce of sparkling water, and then a twist of the orange peel. So he thinks that's really the way to best enjoy it, and that it brings out all the flavors. And he just considers this the perfect serve and the best and most refreshing way to drink it.
Gracias. Perfect. ¿Y qué perfil en el ron Santa Teresa usualmente vamos a encontrar? 1796.
Bueno, a la nariz vamos a conseguir un ron suave, balanceado, rico en madera, en añejo, y que nos va a permitir que cada vez que lo apreciemos a la nariz vamos a conseguir nuevos aromas, que empezás a apreciar notas de vainilla, notas de avellana, de tabaco, de chocolate negro, de ciruela pasa, y en la boca vas a disfrutar todos esos sabores, y es un trago largo en boca que permanece, y cuando pasa el aftertaste, el sabor, el dejo que es muy, muy suave, no molesta.
So he was saying, as you bring it up and you have the aroma hit your nose, you start picking up those scents and flavors, and then as you taste it, you'll start picking up the vanilla and some of the fruit, some of the plum, the raisin, a little bit of tobacco, dark chocolate notes, and it's a long taste. So as you taste it, it'll linger there, but it's very, very smooth, very delicious. But it is something that you'll pick up all these beautiful mixes of flavors coming together.
Y es un trago que en la primera apreciación que aprecias esas notas que incluyen también la parte de madurez, de añejo, pero en la medida que tú lo vas probando, puedes apreciar más, hasta notas de pimienta, notas de canela, y es un trago que tiene vida, que a medida que lo vas disfrutando, y lo ideal para tomarlo así, para degustarlo es seco o con una gotica de agua, y tú vas apreciando en cada trago nuevos sabores, nuevos aromas, pero sin que se te olviden los otros ni que sea diferente. Evoluciona en la copa y tú puedes disfrutar a lo largo del trago esa maravilla de combinación de sabores y aromas.
Sure. It's a product and a rum that evolves as you go tasting it, and every time you go back for another taste or you go back for another drink, you'll discover new flavor notes that you didn't taste the first time. So the second time around, more of the pepper might come out or some of the cinnamon might come out. But it's something that it's not that it's different every time. It just, you can taste the new flavors without forgetting the older ones. And it just brings it all together. But every time that you taste it, you'll discover new reasons to like it. The best way for you to kind of taste it the first time or really feel all the flavors and the flavor notes is either just neat or with a little drop of water to open it up. But again, it's a product of discovery.
Exactly. Well, Nestor, Edwin, thank you very much, gentlemen. Muchas gracias a los dos caballeros. This has been extremely informative, it's just been mind-blowing. And thank you so much. We feel very blessed, and everybody who's here, and I'm sure everybody feels the same.
Muchas gracias, Federico, por la invitación y por permitirnos compartir.
Gracias, Federico. Thank you, everyone.
Bueno, saludos, adiós a todo el mundo. Chao.